It is a Tuesday night, raining just enough to make the neon sign of this mid-tier chain restaurant bleed into the wet asphalt outside. You are sitting in a sticky vinyl booth that smells faintly of industrial bleach and old frying oil. The ambient noise of clinking silverware and generic, aggressively cheerful pop music washes over the dining room, but none of it manages to penetrate the space at your table. Because at your table, the silence has become heavy. It is a thick, suffocating silence that feels infinitely louder than the clatter of the kitchen just a few feet away. You are sitting across from your oldest high school friend. This is the person who knows the exact layout of your childhood bedroom, who remembers the scent of your first car, who held your hand through the devastating, world-ending catastrophes of being 17. Yet, right now, staring at the condensation pooling around the base of their water glass, you realize you have absolutely nothing to say to them. The panic sets in. It is a quiet, highly polite panic. To fill the rapidly expanding void, to stop the awkwardness from metastasizing across the table, you reflexively reach into the archives. You pull the ripcord on one of the golden classics. You recite, almost verbatim, one of the same 3 funny stories from 2014 that you have collectively polished to a high shine over the last decade. You deliver the punchline. They laugh. You laugh. But it is entirely hollow. It is pure muscle memory, a localized spasm of nostalgia. The laughter hangs in the air for a brief, desperate second before dissolving, dropping you right back into the exact same suffocating silence. You are both acting in a play that closed a decade ago, wearing costumes that no longer fit, reciting lines you no longer believe. And then, somewhere between the arrival of the lukewarm appetizers and the forced, polite checking of cell phones, the chilling epiphany finally hits you. You are having dinner with a complete stranger. They just happen to be a stranger with high-level security clearance to your foundational memories. You look at their face, the familiar slope of their jaw, the exact same expressions they have made since sophomore year, but you realize you do not know the architecture of their current mind. You do not know what kind of dread keeps them awake at 2 a.m. anymore. You do not know the subtle, intricate fears they carry into their office building every day. You do not know how they truly feel about their fading youth or their quietest, most private ambitions. You only know who they were. You are interacting with a ghost, a fossilized projection of a teenager, superimposed over the tired eyes of the adult sitting across from you. A profound, sickening wave of guilt washes over you. You are supposed to love this person. Society dictates that this bond is sacred, that shared history makes a relationship bulletproof. But the brutal, undeniable truth is sitting right there in the empty space between your plates. You do not actually miss the human being sitting across from you. You do not crave their current intellect, or their current perspective, or their current company. You miss 2014. You miss the absolute certainty of who you were when you were with them. You miss the version of yourself that they represent, a version untouched by the exhausting complexities of modern adulthood. And admitting that to yourself, realizing that you are using this living, breathing person as a mere prop to visit your own past, feels like a betrayal you can never, ever speak aloud. We do not arrive at this paralyzing guilt by accident. It is systematically, meticulously installed in us. From the moment we are old enough to comprehend narratives, we are fed a very specific, deeply romanticized fantasy of what human connection is supposed to look like. Think about the cultural artifacts of our generation, the sitcoms that played on a perpetual loop in the background of our formative years. We watched impossibly beautiful people in unnaturally large apartments, sitting in the exact same coffee shop or the exact same pub, day after day, year after year, existing in a state of comfortable, suspended animation. Pop culture hardwired us to believe that a core group, forged in the chaotic fires of late adolescence, is supposed to seamlessly and painlessly transition into our 30s. We are taught that the ultimate metric of a successful, well-lived life is having a wedding party filled with people you shared a locker with in the 7th grade. This cultural script creates a profound, invisible trap. We hear the colloquial platitude, to never forget where you came from, and we mistakenly internalize it as a rigid psychological commandment. We begin to conflate stagnation with loyalty. Society insists that if you drift away from your origins, you are committing a cardinal sin against your own character. If you do not want to go to the crowded hometown bar on Thanksgiving Eve, if you do not want to spend your precious, finite weekend energy listening to the exact same grievances from people who have aggressively refused to evolve since the Obama administration, you are not allowed to simply be tired. You are deemed arrogant. You are labeled cold. You have somehow betrayed the sacred, unspoken covenant of the day ones. We are gaslit into believing that outgrowing people is a fundamental moral failing, rather than the inevitable biological outcome of simply being alive. And so, we quietly pay the guilt tax. This is the specific, heavy toll exacted on the modern adult, the 28, 32, or 35-year-old who is already buckling under the crushing weight of holding together an increasingly fragmented life. You spend 50 hours a week navigating the exhausting theater of corporate doublespeak, fighting off the creeping existential dread of modern adulthood, and desperately trying to maintain some semblance of physical and mental health. When Friday night finally arrives, your exhausted nervous system craves the quiet sanctuary of your living room. You crave the deep, resonant silence of your own company, or a conversation with someone who actually understands the person you are today. But then, your phone lights up. It is the legacy group chat. A mandatory summons disguised as a casual invitation to catch up. Your stomach immediately drops. You do not feel the warm flutter of excitement. You feel the heavy, leaden dread of an unpaid second job. Yet, you drag yourself out into the night, sacrificing your hard-won peace on the altar of history. You sit in another loud room, nodding along to conversations that feel like watching reruns of a television show you stopped enjoying seasons ago. You do this because society has terrified you into believing that if you finally set a boundary, you will lose your tether to your own identity. You are made to feel that preserving the hollow shell of this connection is a noble act of endurance, when in reality, it is slowly, quietly emptying you out. You are burning your present self as firewood just to keep the ghosts of your past warm. We stay at the table, enduring the heavy silence and the hollow laughter, because of a cognitive glitch borrowed straight from behavioral economics. The sunk cost fallacy. In the financial world, this is the irrational, self-destructive urge to continue pouring money into a doomed investment simply because you have already spent so much capital trying to make it work. In the realm of human connection, the currency is not dollars, but decades. We have been friends for 15 years, you tell yourself, as if sheer longevity is an acceptable substitute for intimacy. You treat the relationship like a dilapidated, sinking house you cannot bring yourself to abandon. You keep dutifully paying the emotional mortgage on a dynamic that is utterly bankrupt, terrified that walking away would render all those accumulated years a complete waste. You convince yourself that time invested is a debt you owe to the future, rather than a beautiful chapter that has simply reached its natural conclusion. But the psychology of why we stay goes much deeper and much darker than mere time management. The true reason we cling with a white-knuckled grip to these decaying bonds is rooted in a psychological concept known as identity foreclosure. This phenomenon occurs when a person prematurely commits to a specific role, a specific version of themselves, without ever exploring the vast, terrifying landscape of who else they might become. When we sit across from our legacy friends, we are not interacting as two complex, evolving adults. We are stepping back into foreclosed identities. To them, you are not the nuanced, capable, and perhaps slightly broken 30-year-old navigating the brutal realities of modern survival. To them, you are forever frozen as the funny sidekick, or the chaotic mess, or the reliable fixer who absorbs everyone else's ambient anxiety. These friends act as the designated keepers of a version of you that ceased to exist a long time ago. And because they hold the rigid blueprint to that old self, you unconsciously shrink yourself to fit back into the mold. You actively suppress your own hard-won growth, pruning away the new branches of your personality so you do not upset the delicate, fragile ecosystem of the group. We use these people as warped mirrors, as desperate, heavy anchors, to prove that our youth was real. The sudden, suffocating terror that strikes you in that sticky vinyl diner booth is not really about losing a friend. It is the sheer, unadulterated grief of your own psychological mortality. To admit out loud that you have entirely outgrown the person sitting across from you is to admit a devastating truth. The 18-year-old version of you is permanently, irrevocably gone. It forces you to grieve the death of your own past. So, rather than facing that quiet, solitary mourning, you freeze the relationship in amber. You stop cultivating a living, breathing connection, and instead, you become a frantic, exhausted curator in the museum of your own history. You meticulously dust off the exact same inside jokes, you polish the same tired anecdotes, and you carefully arrange the artifacts of 2014 behind velvet ropes, demanding that both of you stare at them indefinitely. You tell yourself you are being a loyal friend, honoring your roots. But the tragic reality is that you are no longer maintaining a relationship. You are just dusting a tomb. The lengths we go to avoid this solitary mourning are both spectacular and profoundly tragic. Because we are so terrified of the grief that comes with letting go, we refuse to pull the plug. Instead, we hook these phantom relationships up to an intricate array of life support systems, relying on toxic coping mechanisms to simulate a pulse. Look at the legacy group chat sitting on your phone right now. It is a digital graveyard. It lies completely dormant for weeks at a time, stripped of any genuine vulnerability, daily intimacy, or actual updates on each other's internal lives. It only twitches back to life when someone drops a contextless, heavily compressed meme into the void. It is a superficial pulse check, a desperate little tap on the glass just to ensure the patient hasn't officially flatlined. Then there is the performative dance of the catch-up text. You know the exact script. It's been way too long. We need to get together soon. You type the words. They double tap to heart the message. You both agree to a vague rendezvous for some time next month, all while secretly, desperately hoping that the sheer friction of adult scheduling will eventually grind the plans to dust. But sometimes, the friction fails. The plans actually materialize, and you find yourself trapped at that table, engaging in what can only be described as emotional necromancy. You are trying to resurrect a corpse. You attempt to shock the ghost back to life by feeding it the same cheap tequila and dragging it through the same sticky-floored hometown bars you both haunted when you were 22. But the magic has entirely evaporated. You cannot recreate a chemical reaction when the base elements have completely changed. This is why you walk away from these forced reunions feeling infinitely more drained, more hollow, and more profoundly lonely than if you had just eaten takeout in silence on your kitchen floor. We tolerate this agonizing ritual because we are addicted to the anesthetic of nostalgia. We have fundamentally misunderstood what nostalgia actually is. We treat it like a soft, comforting blanket, a warm sepia filter we can casually lay over a difficult, exhausting present. But look at the etymology of the word itself. It originates from the Greek times nostos, meaning to return home, and times algos, meaning pain. It literally translates to the pain of an old wound. For centuries, it was classified as a psychiatric illness, a suffocating, melancholic longing for a time and space that can never, ever be reclaimed. Yet, we weaponize this pain against ourselves. We use nostalgia to create a toxic positivity loop, violently insisting to each other that things are exactly like the old days, just so we don't have to look at the terrifying strangers we have become. We use this relentless, aggressive remembering as a shield. By keeping our eyes locked so firmly on the rearview mirror, we actively blind ourselves to our own profound, hard-won personal growth. We drug ourselves with the familiar, aching comfort of who we used to be, solely to avoid the immense responsibility of claiming who we are right now. So, here is the necessary, deeply uncomfortable paradigm shift. The true anti-advice that directly contradicts every generic self-help book telling you to fiercely, stubbornly nurture your roots. Outgrowing someone is not a betrayal. It is a biological and psychological necessity. We understand this intuitively when we look at the natural world. We know that an oak tree cannot possibly reach its full canopy if its root system is permanently constrained within the exact same terracotta pot it sprouted in. Eventually, it must break the clay. It must spread its roots into new, terrifyingly vast soil, or it will slowly choke itself to death under the weight of its own stagnation. You are no different. To shed the people who no longer fit the intricate architecture of your current life is not an act of cruelty. It is the brutal, unavoidable tax of personal evolution. But to actually pay that tax, you must confront the most complex and isolating form of mourning human beings ever experience, grieving the living. When a relationship quietly expires but the person continues to walk the earth, society offers us no rituals. There are no casseroles dropped off on your front porch. There are no black-clad funerals, no eulogies, no definitive moments of closure. You are simply left walking around with a psychological phantom limb. To survive this, you must give yourself the profound, radical permission to mourn the end of an era. You have to look squarely at the wreckage of the friendship, look at the fading ghost of the teenager you used to be, and finally say the terrifying words out loud. That was beautiful. It shaped the absolute core of me, and it is over. Releasing your white-knuckled grip on a dead dynamic is the only mechanism you have for fully inhabiting your present life. As long as you are continuously expending your finite energy to perform an outdated, compressed version of yourself for the comfort of a legacy friend, you are starving the person you are right now. You fought an agonizing, largely invisible war over the last decade to become this adult. You survived the quarter-life crises, the crushing career pivots, and the silent, lonely nights of unlearning your own toxic patterns. You earned this current, complex version of yourself. You are allowed to inhabit it. You do not owe your past a monopoly on your future. The waitress arrives. She drops the black leather checkbook onto the sticky table with a soft thud, breaking the trance. You both reach for it. A final, polite choreography, before sliding your cards in and splitting it right down the middle. A few minutes later, you are stepping out of the sterile neon glow of the diner and into the cold, damp air of the asphalt parking lot. You turn to face them under the flicker of a dying street lamp. You wrap your arms around each other in a hug that is perfectly pleasant, yet unmistakably distant, two magnets with the exact same polarity, gently pushing away from one another. You say goodbye. You walk to your car. You slide into the driver's seat and pull the heavy door shut, sealing yourself inside the dark, private cabin. The aggressive pop music is gone. The hollow, performative laughter is gone. The ghost of 2014 is gone. And for the first time all evening, the silence is no longer suffocating. It is expansive. It is a deep, resonant quiet, a vast open canvas stretching out in front of you. You put the car in drive. You pull out of the parking lot, leaving the diner in the rearview mirror, and you drive off into the dark, stepping beautifully, terrifyingly, into the exact person you are right now.